Biological aging is a matter of cumulative error. When a living organism replaces its cells, the replication process is rarely perfect. Over generations of division, microscopic structural flaws accumulate. These errors multiply, the surrounding tissue loses its function, and the organism eventually fails. The 2,000-year intellectual history of the Jewish exile follows a similar pattern of transmission. For a culture to survive, its core ideas must be replicated from one generation to the next, but the process is vulnerable to the same kind of slow, generational degradation. This tradition began with a rigorous, objective foundation. Under the Geonim in Babylon, and later codified by Maimonides, the law was a system of philosophical logic. It demanded intellectual accountability and an active rejection of daemons and magic. But starting in the 13th century, foreign elements began to seep into the record. Occult practices and the mystical theorems of the Zohar were introduced not as novelties, but as a hidden tradition, slowly replacing the established logic of the previous 1,000 years. These intellectual errors were not corrected, they were replicated. As this mystical outlook gained dominance, the community's capacity to engage with the physical world through reason began to erode, preceding 3 distinct periods of historical collapse. The first major failure occurred in the 14th century. A movement of pseudo-scholars launched a campaign against Maimonidean rationalism, characterizing the study of philosophy as a threat to faith and entirely replacing it with the newly emerging theorems of Kabbalah. This shift had measurable consequences. Historical records indicate that the rise of Kabbalah and the decay of Maimonidean learning preceded a period of mass apostasy. As communities lost their rational grounding, they were increasingly vulnerable to conversion and the eventual devastating Spanish expulsion of 1492. By the 17th century, the mutation had progressed further. Lurianic Kabbalah had become the new standard, introducing a whole world of magical incantations and esoteric fervor that became the primary focus of Jewish life. This environment created a population highly susceptible to mystical suggestion. When Shabbatite Tzvi appeared in 1666, the Jewish world, from commoners to prominent rabbis, enthusiastically embraced his claim to be the Messiah, only to face a crushing humiliation when the hoax was exposed. A pattern had been established. In both Spain and the Ottoman era, the abandonment of the objective legal tradition for mystical fervor was followed by civilizational collapse. Even after the Sabbatean collapse, the underlying mystical mindset remained. It evolved into the Hasidic movement, which adopted many of the same esoteric goals, but reorganized them around a new social structure. This stage was defined by the cult of the tzaddik. In this system, personal reason was deferred to a charismatic leader, an inerrant saint, who claimed his soul originated from a higher place, and whose word superseded objective law. The focus of the religion shifted toward the use of kamiyot, or amulets, and segulot, magic charms used to influence health, wealth, and safety. These physical tools became the primary way the masses interacted with the world. Using a segulah attempts to manipulate the divine through a ritual act. It represents a move away from traditional law and toward a mechanic where God is something to be bent or tricked through the right charm. By prioritizing magical solutions over rational action, the movement left the population without the intellectual tools needed for self-preservation in the physical world. They also institutionalized entirely foreign concepts, like Gilgul or reincarnation, as core tenets. Classical rationalist giants like Rav Sadia Gaon had previously and utterly rejected reincarnation, describing it explicitly as delusions and confusions. The horrific climax arrived in the 20th century. These infallible but ignorant Sadiq leaders fiercely opposed Zionism and strictly forbade practical, earthly action to escape Europe. By stripping the masses of their rational agency and conditioning them to wait for mystical salvation, this leadership left a defenseless European Jewry and let them right into the gas chambers of the Holocaust. The pathology is clear. A healthy, rational organism was systematically killed by centuries of compounded mystical and authoritarian degradation. Could it be that this ideology that led to the Spanish expulsion in 1492 and that led to the Sabbatean catastrophe also led to the extermination of European Jewry in the Holocaust? The prophet Ezekiel once described a vision of a desolate valley filled entirely with dry, sun-bleached bones, a diagnostic parable for the final state of the nation in exile. This vast graveyard is the inevitable result of a civilization entirely consumed by its own ideological pathogen. Can these bones live?